Welcome to West Virginia Beer Roads, a podcast all about beer from a West Virginia perspective. I'm Erin McCoy, here with my podcast partner, Charles Backway.
Sam Fonda is among the most revered and successful brewers in the state of West Virginia. Since opening Weathered Ground Brewery in 2017, Sam has produced a plethora of different beer styles, stretching the West Virginia craft beer envelope, while at the same time developing a tight group of recurring core brands that West Virginians have grown to love. Erin, I find their products to be easy to love, and I know you're a fan of this beer too.
Yes, I sure am. And one of the things that I love the most about Weathered Ground Brewery is actually visiting the brewery tap room itself. It's an absolutely beautiful facility sitting amidst a large grassy field with some amazing views. And it's not hard to get attached being here, looking out over the landscape, just enjoying everything with some great brews.
So here is the man himself joining us today on West Virginia Beer Roads. We welcome Sam Fonda, co-owner and head of brewery operations at Weathered Ground Brewing in Cool Ridge, West Virginia. Sam, it's great to have you back with us.
Thanks for having me back. It's always fun.
And thank you, Sam, for bringing out a couple of Weathered Ground brews for us to sample today. I'm going to let you introduce the first one before we get talking into the big picture stuff.
Sure. The first beer we're tasting is our West Coast IPA, or one of our West Coast IPAs that we usually have in rotation here. It's called That Old West Coast IPA. I really love this beer because it reminds me of a beer that I used to brew for a previous brewery. Of course, I didn't want to make that exact same beer, so I switched around a lot of stuff, but it's in the same spirit of that beer. It doesn't have a ton of bittering hops in it, but enough to call it a West Coast. We're not shooting for crystal clear clarity there, but it's nothing like a hazy IPA. The hops that we use in it are Amarillo on the front of it. We use a lot of Amarillo hops, and we also put a touch of Citra hops in there, but of course you have to be careful with that or else Citra hops are all you're going to taste. And then we also use some really classic West Coast hops like Chinook and Centennial. And I just think it's a really good balanced IPA for those of us that grew up sort of, before the haze craze as being craft beer fans.
Yeah, it's great to see that you continue that West Coast IPA tradition because, they're quite different in flavor and appearance and all from the hazies, and yet a wonderful beer.
Yes.
Oh, yes. What's the ABV for this one?
This one is 7.2. With most of our regular hazy IPAs, I try to stay below 7%. It just adds to the drinkability of those hazies. But whenever we're brewing a West Coast, I tend to, I like it to, there's something about that number 7. I like to try to be there or a little bit above that. So,
nice.
Because it's, the West Coast IPAs are supposed to be a little assertive. So we shoot for, that one comes out at 7.2. We also have one that's called Spiffy, and I think it's 6.8.
Well, it's quite delicious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we're sitting down here in the actual brewery facility, with the tanks all around us, and puts me in the mind of thinking, though, about actual physical brewing operations. And, Sam, since we've talked to you last about big picture things, we've seen the West Virginia craft beer market continue to develop at a pretty fast clip. I'm kind of curious with all what it takes to open a brewery. What's your take now on how the overall West Virginia beer market is handling the locally made craft beer here in early 2023?
It's a very exciting time to be a resident in West Virginia. We've had a lot of really fun things happen over the past few years, especially Charleston. Obviously, lately has had 2 awesome places open up, and we couldn't be more excited to have that an hour away from us and to make new friends and have other breweries here to lean on and hang out with. The market is growing. It's taken some big jumps here and there, but it's not like crazy yet. It's just fun to sit back and watch all the all the people that live in West Virginia just I think every day more and more people get turned onto it. We see it here in our tap room where still have people come in and say they've never really tried craft beer. They're here because we serve food and, or something. And then they're back next week. And can't wait to try the new beer on tap. So it's just, we're still turning people into fans, and I think it's just really great.
Well, Sam, Weathered Ground chooses to self-distribute rather than going through beer distributors. Overall, right now, how is that working for you? I'm really talking about handling all the logistics of distribution and the challenges associated with this type of operation.
We chose to first self-distribute because of the size that we were, and I knew the pros and cons of it coming from an area where I was sort of trained up. I used to be on the distribution side for the first brewery I worked for, and so I sort of knew the logistics of it.
Yeah, and that was in North Carolina, where overall I'd say they're a few years ahead of us in developing breweries. So
they are.
Yeah.
I still am today, just very paranoid about our product. And just being able to sort of have full control if I want to, be able to talk to our retailers on a more personal level and just have control over it before it's not ours anymore. So as long as we're the size that we are right now, we'll continue to self-distribute. It gets a lot harder if you grow more. So if we grow more, we'll have to make some really important decisions. Mm-hmm. But I just love being able to have it under my thumb like that. And then we have love our distro team and the way that we run things and the way we're able to get to almost all the places we want to be. Mm-hmm. With the markets. It's been really exciting for us being able to self-distribute to Snowshoe over the last 2 years. The Junction Ale House there, they buy a lot of beer from us every 2 weeks, and being able to manage that and just hopefully that lasts through the summer as well. It's just been really great, and we want to self-distribute as long as we can.
What all markets are you actually physically in right now within? So
the way we distribute beer, there's two main markets that I call. One of them being the Charleston-Huntington route, mm-hmm. and there's other small towns in that, but just for short, we call it usually the Charleston-Huntington route. That's going to include Tays Valley and Cross Lanes and Barbersville and places like that. And then there's the Morgantown route.
Okay.
And the Morgantown route's pretty cool because we actually have some retailers in Tip Top in Thomas. They are in. That might be in Davis. Go back and edit this.
The Tip Top is in Thomas.
Yeah, but they meet us, and
so they help.
So we don't have to drive all the way there.
That would be an expensive haul just to take beer to them, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we have some people work with us that are really good like them, and we do it bi-weekly though. 1 week we'll go to the Charleston-Huntington route, and then the next week we'll go to the Morgantown route. Okay. We have one sales rep at Weathered Ground, and he pretty much has to live on his phone. All the managers of these restaurants want the beer list, emailed or texted to them, and he has to respond to those people and go back and forth on what beers they are and mm-hmm. what beers are on the list, what beers do those taste like, why does that beer fit their portfolio the best, and our beers change every single week. And so
it's going to be a tough job.
It is. And so, but we're really proud of the way we get it out to everybody. And like the hardest part is turnover for those retailers, like restaurants. They have a new manager because somebody got quit or got fired or something like that. And so we have to stay on top of that and know who the new manager is and who we're supposed to send the beer list to and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's got to be challenging.
It's challenging. It's hard to be a brewery, a music venue, a place that has events, a restaurant, tap room, as well as a distributor. Mm-hmm. I don't think a lot of people realize we are a distributor. We distribute our product.
Yeah, it sounds like you're all pre-sale, right, on your distribution side. You're not hauling out any beer like a beer distributor might and selling off a truck. You all
Correct.
Pre-sold everything to the account.
It's all pre-sale, and occasionally there's some errors there, and you got to do damage control.
Sure.
Oh, just kidding. We can't can this beer today because of this issue.
Whoops. Sure, things come up.
They're not going to get that beer until next week. So it's tough, but we're surviving in it, and I hope our customers are happy.
Well, anyway, your products are turning up a lot of places in our local market, and you definitely seem to be getting the job done. I'm curious how distribution has changed now that bars and beer retailers are pretty much back to more normal operations when compared to peak COVID times. Maybe things like the ratio of sales through off-premise versus on-premise accounts. Talk about that a little bit.
Kegs are back big time right now. The other breweries will probably agree with me that we've just gone through two of the worst months in the beer industry. After Thanksgiving, things slow down dramatically and until February, and so we are preparing to send out a lot of kegs going forward, like we're getting into the busy season. But man, during COVID, it was nothing. It was only cans. I reached out to our graphic design artist, Jason Lockhart, and said, any beer that we make that's popular, I'm going to need a label for it soon. And so, and that's what exploded with our can portfolio, as well as some other brewers in the state. They did the same thing, and now it was kind of a tough thing to manage easing back into kegs like that. Some places just closed, but like a lot of places are back wide open with kegs, and so we had to figure out which products move faster in cans versus kegs. And the way we do that is we kind of just look at the numbers and go by feel. Like, what you like to drink out of on tap at a bar versus what you want to take home with you, because maybe that beer's got a little too much alcohol in it for you to drink at a bar, and that kind of stuff. And so being able to manage that kind of thing and see what's going to sell better in a keg versus a can is kind of a tough thing to do. But kegs are back, and we're happy about that. We love filling kegs. We love people drinking our beer on tap in places.
Yeah, so it sounds like there are some differences as far as stylistic beer differences in what you sell to a bar versus what sells best in the bottle shop.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's right, except for hazy IPA. Nobody cares. It sells both, equally. If it tastes good on draft and it's under 7%, it sells great on draft at a bar. But if it has a cool label on it and sticks out, in a fridge at a retailer, then it's going to sell good that way too. So we have to try to balance that a good bit.
So Sam, I think I recall hearing you talk about changing some of the ratios of the mix of beers that you're producing here at the brewery going forward. Things like needing to brew more of certain core brands. Talk about that.
My philosophy changed a little bit over the past year. I never like to brew too much of one thing. I like to rotate, and I feel like that helps the beers move better. People get excited about something coming back that they haven't had in a month. But there's just a lot of our accounts that their customers and themselves, they just don't want anything besides Haggard. I feel like I'm Chestnut talking about Halleck with that a little bit because they both have the same H name, but our Haggard IPA.
I think that's how core brands develop, because it's whether it's the retailer or certainly the bar, people get used to
They get used to it. They like the name. Yeah. They like the branding of it, and so same thing with Cool Ridge Lager, and those were just like the first two beers that we really packaged and were really going after. And so I find myself buying a lot more El Dorado hops right now and trying to always keep Haggard in a tank, where it used to be I didn't care. I'd just brew the next IPA that was in rotation. Now I'm trying to always have Haggard and Cool Ridge. But we have another lager that I think is equally as good as Cool Ridge, with being our Pilsner. But the branding on that one is not the same as Cool Ridge. And so I'm still trying to manage keeping up with Cool Ridge, but also keeping 16 Shots in Munich, our Pilsner, in rotation. Lagers take up a lot of space and time. They take up a lot of time, and so it's tough, but we're doing it. We're about to brew 16 Shots again, and we have a lot of Cool Ridge on hand. It's about to go out the door. So
I know something a lot of brewers find is important, and certainly when they work with beers that are hot for retail and bottle shops, is that the label appearance, to keep your brand similar so people recognize quickly that is a weather ground beer.
Sure.
The trademarks and all the name is in the same place and all that. So is that something that you've had to think more about as far as the way the labels look?
Yes, and that's something our graphic design artist gets frustrated with a little bit when we use a different art. So, like, we'll use a different artist for some of our cans, and they are not. Sometimes they're not only an artist, but they're also a graphic design artist, and so they want to do the layout as well. And I know it bothers Jason a little bit if it doesn't have most of our. I would say like 90% of our labels have the scheme going of the top and bottom colors being the same with something in the middle that's a different shade. And so when it's not like that, it can be frustrated to him. But he really believes that it's people get familiar with that color scheme, even if it's subconsciously. They get very familiar with that color scheme and can pick us out on the shelf faster.
Right, recognize it.
And so we try to continue to do that and continue to have like a familiar feel with our cans.
Well, let's give a quick plug to Jason
Lockhart.
Jason Lockhart and his business is
Kid in the Background. He runs that with Jamie Smith. They're both just whizzes at everything media, and we love that they're on our team.
Right, great.
Wonderful. Well, your Bear of Fruit series has been so well received. And review with us quickly the techniques that you use in making it, and also talk about what new fruit combinations local craft beer connoisseurs can look forward to seeing out in the market or at the brewery this spring.
So the I wish Anthony was here because the Bear of Fruit series is his baby.
Yeah, I know he loves that. He loves making it.
We are going to our account. We're going to look over the numbers from last year and see which ones sold the best, and that's about as simple as it is. For there are going to be some that probably don't make the cut as far as coming back because they weren't received as well. Mm-hmm. But like everybody wants the raspberry blackberry one, and the raspberry costs like 4 times more than all the other fruit.
Oh,
and
sure.
So it's going to be tough to stay on top of that one because it's so expensive to make. But we'll probably brew it and just charge a little more for it to cover the costs. But lately we've sort of took a break from canning that series because of the wintertime. We're focused more on malty big beers. We're still brewing it, and it's pretty much been draft only for a while. And the fruit combinations that have been of lately have been because of what fruit do we have left over from from canning all that stuff. So that right now we've got like a pink guava, peach, mango, and that's like because that's what we have.
Right.
And but it turned out fantastic, and so hopefully that one might see a can label this summer actually because I like it so much. But we're going to look at which one sold the best and try to stay on top of that.
But nothing new as far as that you haven't had a combination or brewed before.
I don't have anything.
I
don't have anything new on the top of my head right now, but I'm sure Anthony will think of some weird combination. And then Mandy, our bartender upstairs, she loves the Bear of Fruits, and so we might. I'll lean on her a little bit about which ones are better than the other ones, in her opinion. And then we also are making more fruited sours that by the way, to answer the first part of your question, it was an old-fashioned kettle sour, and now we don't do it in the kettle anymore. We changed that about the beginning of the fall. We started playing with a yeast bacteria all-in-one package that does it for us in the fermenter.
Oh, nice. And
we should have done that a long time ago because brewing kettle sours in the kettle is just a big pain. You have to really, really clean and sanitize before and after, which we do. We stay on top of cleaning and sanitizing anyway, but it's just different when you do a kettle sour. It's just a lot more, commitment to cleaning. Whereas this new way, we can do it all in the tank, and we'll actually be able to make 15 barrels of the Bear of Fruits instead of 7.
Wow, that sounds a lot more efficient.
We'll have a lot more kegs. This past summer is all cans. No accounts got kegs of it unless it was for a special event. Mm-hmm. This time, there should be equal amounts of cans and kegs of it out there for accounts that don't carry cans and want to have it on draft.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
I've noticed when I talked recently to the folks at Big Timber that discovered they were doing a little different technique in their kettle sours, where they had started kind of like you did with a standard process, and then they've kind of developed, I guess, over time, maybe changed yeast and stuff. It's amazing. So there's what I think for the listeners need to know, there are a lot of different ways to sour beer and to make a fruited sour beer, and it's not all just the same. And I guess to some extent that will be able to come out in the taste. Other times it's probably not so evident in the taste, the techniques that you've used. So thank you for kind of explaining.
Mm-hmm. We love to make the weird ones too. I think people. I think that there's a ton of breweries that either make kettle sours. I call them kettle sours, but you can do it differently now. What I mean is either make quick sours. I should call them quick sours.
Yeah,
Sure,
quick sours.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
There's a lot of breweries that just do it that way, and then there's a lot of very traditional breweries that do it like the Belgian way of that do long aged
Right,
sours
sure.
with mixed cultures. And I'm really proud that we do both. We usually have 1 to 2 mixed culture wild beers or just very sour barrel aged beers that were not a quick sour, and we love to use local fruit when we can get it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Barrow Fruit Series is not local fruit, but we do a lot of local fruit in season with our neighbor who's
Mm-hmm.
also an employee here now, Tim, the Wards, Tim Buck Sioux Farms,
Right.
and so. I'm proud that we do both. I was anti-kettle sour for a while, and then, of course, Anthony changed my mind. when he made
That's Anthony
Anthony.
Metter, the brewer here, the main brewer, I guess you call him. I
Yep.
mean, not that you don't brew as well, but
Anthony strikes again.
Yeah, Anthony does it.
I really don't brew much anymore. Anthony owns that brew house over there. He holds it down.
That's great.
So, Sam, speaking of some different kind of beers, I remember in the past you've dabbled some in collaboration brews with North Carolina brewers that people you knew well, and I'm thinking of Fonda Brewery from Morganton, Resident Culture in Charlotte. And I know how commercially successful those collaborations were, but I guess I'm curious as to what your outlook is for any more collaborations with other super good small brewers that you know.
We are 100% open into doing collaborations with more West Virginia breweries. We've been in the talks of doing collaborations with a handful of our friends here in the state, and we just haven't had time to put it on the schedule, either because of us or because of them. Just finding the right time has been difficult. We say we're going to do it, and then we see each other and be like, "Hey, what about that collaboration we talked about?" And then it's just gotten tough, especially during and after COVID. Like not just during COVID, but the aftermath of it is like, okay, let's get back to what. I mean, I know I don't want to sound like COVID's not still going on when I say that, but when everything's kind of opened up and draft beer's back and everything. But hopefully maybe this summer we'll get into brewing some beers. We've been talking about doing one with Sophisticated Hounds. They're our neighbor, and we haven't done one yet, and we love them. We hang out all the time.
Neighboring county, that's Sophisticated Hound in Princeton, West Virginia.
We've been talking about doing with them and Free Folk, and we just haven't got around to it. I've been talking to High Ground forever about doing it, and we haven't got it done yet. And so hopefully this summer we'll get a lot of that done. We've been doing a lot of collaborations recently with different types of people that are not in the brewing industry for different reasons.
Yeah, I know. Technically, I don't consider those collaborations. I'm talking about brewery to brewery collabs.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
Yeah,
but
right.
yeah.
So,
but yeah, like we just made a beer with the local radio station and giving them some love because they do our advertising for us, and then we did a collaboration with the Can Jam concert that goes on in Princeton, and all that money went towards the Bluefield food bank there that provides cans to people. So like we've been doing some of that stuff for charity, but we want to get back into making beers with other breweries soon, and so hopefully we'll take some visits to some places.
Yeah, excellent. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you've made a lot of changes to the food that's offered here at your brewery as compared to when you first opened up. How has that process gone, and what have you had to change or adjust for?
We're trying to give people what they want. So like gluten-free is a big thing right now. So not only with the food menu, but with the beer as well. So we offer gluten-free pizza, and we've started carrying gluten-free seltzers upstairs. We do need to add some more items that are more healthy on the food menu. So we're going to tackle that very soon. We've been procrastinating a little bit on that, but we are going to add some more items soon.
But that's adding items. You're not like redoing anything.
We're not redoing anything.
Keep what you've got.
No, we love the way we're doing our wings and pizza and our salads right now, and our appetizers. We just need to add a couple more healthy items, I think, and hopefully we'll tackle that soon. They're doing a great job in there. We never have any turnover in the kitchen, which is unheard of, and so we love what they're doing, and hopefully they love working here, and it's been great.
Well, last year in West Virginia, we had 5 new breweries open and 1 remote brewery tap room open also. So for us, that's a big number of new places. We've also got in the pipeline a big new brewery projects from Chestnut Brew Works in Morgantown, the Free Folk Brewery in Fayetteville. Both of those should open sometime this spring. Then late last year, Stumptown Brewing, one of the state's highest rated brewers, announced they're going to open a new tap room in Fairmont. So it's things are happening. The local brewery market seems to be making a big jump forward. I don't know how much time, Sam, that you've got to get out to visit some of these other places and explore their products. But generally, what would your take be on the beer market and the brewers that we're seeing in West Virginia today?
I mean, light years different than when we first opened in 2017. There's just a lot of talent, a lot of people pushing the envelopes. The market is looking great here for the new breweries that have opened are doing a great job. I think I've visited both the new ones in Charleston. The state's getting a lot of out-of-state beer that they've asked for a long time right now, and so I think that's making a lot of consumers happy as well, and it's motivating us to try harder with distribution and getting our products out to more places. It's just totally different than it used to be, and it's growing, and that's a good thing for West Virginia.
Yeah, you mentioned some formal collaborations you're doing with maybe some other breweries or you're hoping to do, but I think isn't there still a great spirit of collaboration just among maybe among breweries that are just getting started? Do they talk to you and say, we were thinking of this, or how should we do that? Are you giving advice to some of these guys?
Absolutely. We text each other all the time. I have no secrets really in terms of that kind of stuff, and so I get questions asked to me all the time, and then I text with Josh the other day about pricing for something because I was just curious of the way they were doing it, and they just opened, and we've been open for 5 years, so I'm asking them questions.
That's good. Though.
Yeah. There is, I would say it's pretty kumbaya in West Virginia when it comes to breweries getting along.
That's a good way to put it. What about expansion plans for Weathered Ground? Anything near as far as on the horizon, so to speak?
We're always talking about it, but nothing's set in stone right now. I'll pretty much leave it at that. There's we have ideas and we have fantasies about things that we really want to do. We own the place, and we have a 2-year-old right now, and we have 2 other kids, and so we'll get motivated to get these plans together, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll be like, maybe we need to pump the brakes a little bit until we can do it exactly the way we want to do it. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want to do something just to do it. I want to do it exactly the way we want to do it and have no regrets about it and for it to work.
Sure.
And so it takes a lot for us to jump in and do it. And so we're taking our time, we're watching things, and we just came out of a pandemic. We're definitely going to grow in some way or form, but we're still talking about how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I think my guess is that you're pretty much at capacity for production right now as far as what you've done. Yeah,
we 100% are. I think we brewed like 80 more barrels this year than we did last year, and I can't unless I only did IPAs. I can make a lot more beer.
It would sell quicker. Yeah,
we make some weird beers that don't sell, and that I like, and some people don't like at all. And it is, we brew a lot of saisons, and saisons move. I mean, a hazy IPA moves, 15 times faster than a saison or an English mild.
Yeah.
And like we've got like a mild series, so I don't think a lot of people understand the difference in moving beer. Like hazy IPA sells immediately versus we make a lot of styles of beer that don't sell very fast at all. And we make a lot of beers that we put in oak barrels. And so when I did the math this year, it was like just a little bit more than last year, which was kind of disheartening. But then I have to like remind myself that we make a lot of different styles, and some of those are not popular.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, we're sitting down here in the production area, and it's pretty full of tanks and barrels and things, but maybe you could squeeze a couple more tanks in here in the interim before you made any really big decision on expansion.
Our big bottleneck is our walk-in cooler. I believe that almost every style of beer we make, I like it to not ever be stored warm, and so we can't package anything. I mean, like most of our product is packaged while we're selling it. Like it doesn't just all get packaged and then it all goes. Like it's like packaged to order, and so because we don't have enough walk-in cooler space, so that's like number one on the priority is for us to get more walk-in cooler space so I can store more cold product and I can refill tanks, and so right now that's our issue. But it also keeps all the beer fresh on the market. So like usually when when a retailer buys our beer, like it got kegged the day before, or it got canned, within the 2 to 3 week period.
Yeah, there's
very fresh.
Yeah, definitely something to be said for that, and that's why I think that's been a staple of small craft brewers around the country.
That's why
fresh beer.
That's why, yes. It doesn't always mean that a small brewery is going to make fantastic beer, but freshness is a large part of that equation.
Well, so here we are today in early 2023, and I just think if you look now, put your hat on to look out across the beer market in West Virginia, the brewery market. I thinking back like 10 years ago, you could just count the number of breweries in this state on one or two hands anyway. Today we're up in the 30s. In your opinion, though, is there still room for growth of new breweries opening in this state? And if there are, where are those gaps that a new brewery could fill?
Absolutely. Charleston. That's where a lot of the economy is there as far as for a tap room scene. Distribution-wise, it's going to be tough. I think they'll come and they'll open, but it's going to get tight, and the survivors will be survivors. But I just think that the tap room scene is where it's at for a lot of new breweries that want to open.
Yeah, that seems to be the way it is nationally, from when you look at the statistics.
You have to, if you're going to open a new brewery and distribute a lot, you're just going to have to compete with the rest of us that have been doing it for the past, we've been doing it for 5 years, but there's breweries here before us like Bridge Brew and Big Timber that have been doing it a lot before us. And eventually you kind of hit that, spot where there's not many more restaurants opening, but there's more breweries opening. And so the good thing about that is people from West Virginia love stuff that's made from West Virginia. And
that is very true.
And so that's where we've got the upper hand maybe on some of these outside brands. But I think there's room for more breweries to open. I think the tap room model that serves good food, they're going to be successful because it's a new restaurant basically opening as well.
Right. Yeah, and when I look at the statistics for add up all the beer made by West Virginia small brewers, that percentage of the total beer sold in West Virginia is still pretty tiny compared to a lot of other more advanced, I guess, craft brewing states where they have more brewers already and bigger brewers. That those, that market penetration for craft in West Virginia local breweries still seems like it should have a big upside.
It does. Every time there's a new cool restaurant that opens, we're just like, yes, finally another spot.
Yeah.
And so for there to be more distributing breweries in the state, we need more cool restaurants to open up to sell our beer, or we need them to open up second locations like Pies and Pints has done, or
Yeah,
sure.
And that's also what I notice in other states. Try to follow the national market to some extent. That most breweries in those states don't distribute in a lot of states where they may have hundreds of breweries. or they may just distribute very locally. They aren't really distribution breweries.
Yeah, and then like that's the dream right there is like you get all that stress taken off of you about like the logistics of how we're going to get this to these places and like how we're going to like that. That's kind of the dream right there. But Bobby Bowling would be shaking his head right now because he wouldn't have a job.
Yeah. I don't want to put anybody out of work, I think maybe it's curious as to what you're seeing and where your sales on-premise versus off-premise. I mean, we talked about some of the styles of beer and things that what you're selling, but have your on-premise here at the tap room picked up relative to what you sell out to the distribution market?
Yes, 100%. Since the beginning, we've picked up our, tap room sales big time, and that changed dramatically when we got food. But every year, I think more and more people from North Carolina that go skiing at the ski resort, they find out about us more and more every year, as well as the New River Gorge. It's just on any weekend, you can just look at the license plates out there, and they're not from West Virginia. So like they're traveling and they're stopping and they're finding out about us. Our taproom sales are a large part of our business.
Yeah, I know. I think you found a sweet spot, and I remember thinking early on, I may have even mentioned this to you back when I first met you guys, and you were going to open this brewery out here in Cool Ridge, and I'm going, holy cow, that's out in the middle of nowhere, And it's like, well, people find that place. It's great to hear that people are finding Weathered Ground Brewery in Cool Ridge,
and
West Virginia.
And it's great to see new faces in here that come back like every week. It's just it tickles us for sure. I mean,
the power of craft beer, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Good craft beer, anyway. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, since you started your brewery, this business has always been a close partnership between you and, of course, your wife, Erin. And I understand recently that Erin is utilizing her law degree and taking on some work outside of the brewery. So does this require you guys to make any adjustments in the way that you guys operate here? Or how has that changed things as far as managing the brewery for you two?
It's a lot more on her shoulders because she's not giving up any duties.
Oh boy!
So
she's talented. She can do it.
Yeah. She still has to. She still has to do the things that she does, and mostly be the answer to all the questions that we all have constantly. And so she's right now. She's been with her new job for 2 weeks, and she still has all her duties at the brewery, and she's still extremely passionate about this. But she went to law school and got a law degree and practiced for a while, so she's still. That's been missing. She was very passionate about that before we opened this brewery, and it took a lot for her to stop and to help us open this and to be the boss around here and overlooks pretty much every part of every department here, has to go through her. And so it's going to be a lot, but she enjoys it. She enjoys multitasking. She enjoys challenges, and she's this place would not be near as good as it is. I don't know if we would have survived. Definitely would not have survived the pandemic without her switching gears and making changes every day, every hour about how we do stuff.
But as of now, there's no staffing changes. She's going to
no staffing changes.
She's going to manage it all in the beautiful way that she does.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Well, I'm out of the first beer that we that IPA that we started with, and I think you brought us one more beer to sample during the podcast. So, Sam, could you tell us about beer number 2?
Sure. Right now, you're going to be tasting our newest barley wine. It's called Margaret. We have 2 beers named after my other daughters, and so it was time to finally make one named after my third. Margaret is an English-style barley wine, a style that I've been not made yet, but kind of been keeping in my back pocket. To me, the American-style barley wine is kind of like a darker triple IPA almost. In some ways, there's a lot of American hops that we use in our American barley wine, whereas this English style is full of East Kent Goldings hops, noble hops. And it's a little bit chewier and maltier, and it's high ABV at 10%, but you have to get this beer. You have to come to our tap room to get the regular Margaret. It's because we only got about 2 kegs of this. All the rest of it went into Smooth Ambler bourbon barrels. And so we will package that beer when it's ready, and it'll be a bourbon barrel-aged version of this beer.
It's quite delicious and smooth.
Yeah, beautiful brown color with very fine carbonation. The head is beautiful on this, tan head, and got this mouthfeel. That's a beautiful mouthfeel.
It is.
Just luscious.
It's been one of my favorites. It can be kind of scary to some people because they see it up there. Barley wine, 10.2%, but man, it's just the perfect weather for it, and it's going to continue to be the perfect weather for it in our part of the state up through March, April before the hot months. It's good barley wine season. It's always darker beer season in West Virginia because when the sun goes down, it cools off.
It gets cold.
Well, certainly up here, you're at a high elevation up on a mountaintop.
But Anthony has a lot of reins over the brew house and like developing a lot of recipes these days. And like every once in a while, I'll throw my 2 cents in and say this is how we should make this one. And so I'm proud, since that one was named after my daughter, that I wrote that recipe, and so I'm really happy with it.
And you said we're going to see this out in the market pretty soon, I would assume, or do you have a ballpark figure?
When it tastes good. I mean, when it tastes right.
That's the ones that are in the whiskey barrels, right?
They're in the whiskey barrels. They didn't get put into whiskey barrels until December, so it'll probably be like March.
Yeah. So what you're getting at the brewery right now is not a barrel aged.
Correct. That's just the regular base of beer.
Yeah, I think it's a shame almost to put this in a whiskey barrel. I wish you'd have more of it straight out.
Well, we sort of rotate. Like we brew an imperial stout called Ada, and then sometimes that's bourbon barrel aged, and we also have a regular version. It doesn't mean that you're going to get both in the same year. Just sometimes we do the regular one, and we'll have that packaged version of that, and then sometimes we do the bourbon barrel aged version.
Well, since we're talking about a couple of versions of beers, one thing that all local beer fans want to hear about is what's on tap here at Weather Ground Brewery right now. So let's talk about the products this winter that beer fans are drinking here on most of these days, and maybe just a few highlights of what's upcoming.
Yeah, so we started the winter off with our winter lager, and it's always a debate on how much we should brew of that because nobody gets a beer called Frosted Ground. Like I always thought like after Christmas nobody orders winter lagers anymore. Of course, we did not brew enough of it.
Yeah, I think that was a bad call if you ran out by Christmas.
We ran out way before Christmas.
Well, you're up here on the snow belt, though.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
This is winter up here.
Yeah, so we did brew a hazy IPA with our neighbors at Winter Place Ski Resort. That's been received really well. It's just been one of our best sellers ever. You know, we're going on 44 barrels of that beer. And
the name?
Yard Sale is the name of it, and it's a hazy IPA named after when you bust on the ski hill and you got equipment going every which direction and somebody rides by, it looks like a yard sale.
Yeah, I tried that recently, and I've been enjoying it. It's a nice, fruity, hazy, easy drinking, about 6%, I think.
Yeah, the whole way that beer came about, or the ingredients for that beer came about is I was texting with Alex from Greenbrier Valley, Alex and Jeff over there, and they were needing some because they're brewing a lot of small batches now, and they were needing some wheat or something, and instead of cutting a check, we just traded, and I got all these Hallertau Blanc hops, and I was like, well, now I got to figure out something to make with Hallertau Blanc hops. And we had just happened to be talking at the same time with Winter Place, and I was like, let's do a hazy IPA with Hallertau Blanc hops.
Perfect.
And so that's how that beer came.
Yeah, I would think
about.
That's probably pretty uncommon. I wouldn't say you're the first guy to make a hazy IPA with but those Hallertau Blanc hops are not really IPA hops typically, I guess.
They are they're a German hop, but they have very like white wine characteristics to them, and we paired them with another hop that and this is kind of like Anthony's magic too. He already knew the characteristics of the HBC 630 hops that we paired it with. that hop doesn't really have a name
Dang,
yet.
yeah,
And,
that's one of them earlier experimental
and
ones.
he knew they would be a good match together, and so it turned out wonderful. It's only 6%, so you can have a bunch of them when you get off the ski hill. That's how we're marketing it anyway. And it was really cool that Snowshoe has been going after it, because that's like, competing ski hill sort of. Yeah. And they can't keep enough of it. They love it up there at the Junction Ale House.
Yeah, that's great. I've had it as well, and it is quite easy to drink.
Yeah, I love that beer.
Well, you just went over beers that you're selling now in, of course, the winter season, but I'd like to know if you see a lot of seasonality in the beer styles that your customers like to drink.
Yeah, people look forward to the seasonals, but as you know, hazy IPAs. So I think it was a great idea to have a hazy IPA as a seasonal, because we're going to make it anyway, and
Good business plan.
But so there's definitely people. I'm seasonal myself. I'm seasonal about beer. I love drinking Oktoberfest during the Oktoberfest season, and I love drinking stouts during stout season, and it's just something nostalgic about it, I think. And customers 100% come in and ask questions like, when's this seasonal going to be ready? And
so some of those same customers that like to drink those seasonal beers is what you're saying. Yeah,
absolutely.
Nice.
I think in West Virginia, though, because we're a smaller population state, and certainly in our areas like you're in, there's not a huge population. So you tend to have people that want beers they just like, and you have to kind of satisfy a wide range of people. And certainly you guys have made like tons of different beers all the time. I mean, you're always putting out a new beer, a different style, and I think that might satisfy whether you're getting people coming off the interstate that are from out of state coming in this passing by, or the locals and what they want. And of course what I'm seeing in West Virginia is that hazy IPAs are never out of season.
No.
That's just what people are drinking here.
I've sort of, over the past this year, this goes along with what we were talking about earlier with the Coolidge Haggard and our flagships. Like, I'm sort of we're getting to the point where we've been open for 5 years now, and it's getting tough or I'm feeling like it's going to get tough to have a new beer constantly making these new beers. And I want to keep revisiting ones we've already made that I liked the most and that sold the best, and get those very consistent. But then it seems like lately, like it's just like a different collaboration with a different account constantly, and we're having to come up with a new beer and a new name for that beer. And it's like I think we have enough under our belt now where we can start going backwards and rebrewing ones that we haven't made in a while. And I say that, but in a couple of weeks there'll probably be something we have to come up with for.
I mean,
something new.
I think the market pulls both ways. I mean, to some extent, everybody wants something new, in the market all the time. And then other times, once you've got an established base, which now after you've been in business a number of years, you will, and they like certain brands that you make or certain styles, and that you kind of remake those. And I know you have several that are your kind of flagships and all. I just think that's kind of a normal progression for a good brewer, that makes a lot of different styles.
I think on our production side, you'll start seeing less brand new beers and more just revisits, and then some just getting the axe and not coming back. But that's for our production side. In the tap room, finally last week got with Chris, our cellar man, because he's been asking about it for a while, and I just haven't had the time or the motivation to break the pilot system back out. So this coming into the spring is about the time of year where our chalkboard will start. You'll start seeing erased marks on our chalkboard because stuff's running out, because the distributing side is picking up, and so it was a good time to break that out. And we brew just a standard pale ale because that needs to be the first one. And so I'm showing him the ropes on how to make these pilot batches so it still stays interesting upstairs in their tap room, but maybe not as much on the production side. We'll try to revisit and just keep making some of our really good beers.
So let's change gears a little bit and ask you to look more at the big picture of the beer business and the way it's regulated in West Virginia. There always seems to be things we could do to improve the business climate for our small local brewers. well, legislature's in town now, and I'm kind of wondering if you have anything you think that should be done, could be done, that would either remove roadblocks or help solve some problems facing the West Virginia brewing industry.
I think that one big roadblock that all the brewers are not a fan of is getting roped into a contract that we have to stay with a distributor for a long period of time.
Let me ask you, is that one thing that's kept you away so far from using a beer distributor?
I don't think that I would if that law gets changed, I won't automatically go with a distributor, but it's definitely disheartening and makes me not, because
Even want to consider it, yeah.
you're committing your livelihood to these people that have lots of different brands that they can't just care about your brand, and so it's just that would be a hard commitment for me.
Okay.
And then, but we've had a lot of good things happen over the last couple of years, and that's one big one I know that some brewers are just not a fan of, and I think there's some language in there about that we talked about earlier, opening up secondary tap rooms that maybe needs to be more clear, and that's it's kind of getting in the way of some places opening maybe. And
yeah, when you say we talked about it earlier, that was pre-recording here, but it was a discussion of the fact that the West Virginia law only allows a brewery to have one in-house operation, tap room, whatever. You can't have a second brewery and tap room in another part
Under
of
the same
state.
name.
Well, yeah, I mean, it'd have to be even they tend to look at where who the owners are. Really, they said that in the past. I don't know where they are today, but whatever. Yeah, so that's something I know the craft brewers are looking at, is allowing brewers to open a second brewery operation, not just a tap room selling their beer, but actually an actual production facility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think those two things are really important and need to be addressed. And then after that, I don't know where you go, because I think that there were some people that worked really hard to get some things done during the pandemic that drastically changed, how
those were temporary. That was
somewhere, yeah.
something.
It's a pretty. I think now we're a pretty good state to make and sell alcohol in, versus maybe it was pretty negative, 5 or 6 years ago. I think that it kind of mirrors North Carolina now and some of these states around.
Yeah,
us.
I think the government or the governing agencies, the West Virginia Alcohol Beverage Control.
All it takes is one signature, though, for a law to drastically change, like that, like the tax thing that was going on, that we were so scared was going to be an enormous tax hike.
And that came from the governor, not the necessarily the alcohol regulators.
Right.
So definitely. Don't be afraid to voice your opinions and vote for who is going to care about us, because we want to stay here and we want to be here, and we don't want enormous tax hikes.
You got to be able to afford to stay here and be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good to know. I mean,
luckily that did not happen.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's good for listeners to know that there are folks in the brewing industry that are here in West Virginia working on always improving the laws that regulate the industry, because there's a few, like you mentioned, a few places that we could get better and be more positive business climate for small brewers.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well, we'll switch gears, after talking about all of the legal kind of a little bit more static stuff. Let's get back to Weathered Ground itself. And along the way, as the brewery has developed into the brewery that we all love today, there must have been some interesting anecdotes, stories, customer antics, something that just, made you laugh, gave you a good chuckle. Is there anything in particular that might come to mind that you want to share with us today?
He is going to hate me for this, but our ex-taproom manager, Adam Tyree, which congratulations.
I remember Adam.
Congratulations. He just had a baby 2 days ago.
Wonderful.
But Adam came downstairs to pour a sample from a tank for our best customer at the time, who's no longer a customer. He's an employee, Terry Smith. Terry and his wife Tanya were down here wanting to sample the beer we named after them, which is a delicious Scotch ale called Wee TNT. Mm-hmm. And Adam went thought that he was taking the what we call the Zwickel, which is how we pour beer from the tanks. He thought he was taking the Zwickel off, but he actually had no business being down here messing with the tanks. He took the sample port off of the fermenter under pressure. And it's a pretty big room down here. There's not 1 square inch down here that did not have beer.
Oh my gosh!
And I was gone, and I got a phone call, and
tears, anger.
He was pretty distraught, and all I said was, "Are you okay?" Like physically, and he said yes, and I was like, "It's okay then." And so that.
Oh boy!
Luckily, that's been the worst. About the biggest thing that's happened down here. I think it was like a month later, we did an employee outing to Asheville and went to Sierra Nevada. And while you're doing the Sierra Nevada tour, there's this huge blown up picture of an employee with like a helmet and glasses on, and they're taking a sample from the Zwickel there at Sierra Nevada, and we all made Adam stand in front of the picture and get his. And we took his picture. It was pretty funny.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, it's been fun being here today. I know getting to listen a little bit to the music you've got going on up in the tap room. People should come on down here to Cool Ridge, West Virginia, maybe, and check out your tap room if they haven't already, or if they have, come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Weatherground is a fantastic spot to just drive through, stay a little while. Either way, it's definitely something you need to experience. So, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today here on West Virginia Beer Roads.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for always having me on, and I enjoyed it.
This brings us to the close of another podcast. Remember, you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast host. Thank you for listening to West Virginia Beer Roads.
West Virginia Beer Roads is a production of BrilliantStream.com.